Okay, we are live with the Teflon Tales. Today I have two guests. As you can see, I have Jennifer McLaronon at Boston College High School. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, Ashwin. Thank you for having me.
And I have Meghan Jacquot, who is a cybersecurity specialist. Welcome, Meghan.
Hi, really happy to be here. Thanks.
So, Teflon Tales, this is episode number 31, if I can do math right. And for those of you here for the first time or watching this for the first time, it's really a show where we bring people who are living the Teflon life. What is a Teflon life? People who are able to get hot on things quickly, cool down equally fast, remain flexible, balanced, and remain non-sticky, right? With that being said, so Jennifer, let's start with you. I first came into contact with, I think it's about 2 months ago, and when you were hosting a Boston College cybersecurity conference, if I recall correctly. And since then, I've learned so much about you and vice versa, and we feel like we're like old buddies. But the thing I want to kind of I want you to impress upon the viewers really is the pivot points in your life to where you are right now as the CIO of the Boston College High School. What were some of the moments that kind of caused you to change course, if you will?
Okay, good question. So I started my career in education, and I was a high school teacher for 4 years, and then I stayed home with my boys for 6. And there was most of the time that I was working from home or staying home with the boys, I didn't even think I'd be hired back into the workforce because, you just get into a mode where you're just taking care of the kids. And it was really tough for me. I knew I always wanted to go back to work, but I didn't always see a clear path, right? So Boston College High School was opening up a middle school, and they had an on-site daycare. So I applied, and I was hired in the middle school. And I worked for 8 years as a middle school science teacher with some wonderful people, wonderful students, families. It's a great place. But I was always itching for a new challenge. So I worked my way up to a position that was called instructional technologist. And I had been involved helping the school implement a one-to-one iPad program. So that gave me an opportunity to try new things, to bring in a learning management system, work with faculty and staff. And I wrote a tech plan as part of my role as dean. I was working with the technology committee. So writing the tech plan gave me a really good sense of the technology at the school, where some opportunities for improvement were, and a director of technology job came up, and I was hired. And I tell this story a lot. The COO that hired me, I think she thought 80% of the work would be in the instructional technology piece in that role, and 20% would be in what I call the server room stuff, the technical piece, but ended up being the opposite. And, that was a wonderful opportunity to go in and learn from, the ground up and learn about all the different technology that was running the school, running the business. And I would say another opportunity came along when I was introduced, when our current president, Grace Regan, she introduced me to Kevin Powers, who runs the cyber program at Boston College. And he invited me to take his class at BC. I just finished up a second master's in ed leadership. So the last thing I wanted to do was go back to grad school, right? And I'm the oldest one in the class. So that was a pivotal moment, him inviting me to that class. I started the master's program at BC, and I was just taking everything I learned there and putting a lot into practice at BC High. And it was amazing, the people that I met, my classmates, the professors. And Kevin has really opened doors to people in the industry. That conference, for example, he's very much a partner putting that together. And so just very fortunate to have had the opportunity to be the director of technology. It certainly came with a lot of work, but certainly everything I put into it, I got back, in space. Like, unbelievable what I got out of it. So,
wow, that's a lot to pack. We'll definitely delve a little bit deeper. So switching gears, Meghan. So from your LinkedIn profile, I literally cracked up, right, when I saw Curious George. We'll come to that in a bit. But this is directly from your profile. Just look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder what makes the universe exist. Be curious, Stephen Hawking. And then Curious George, I cracked up when I saw that that's what your father gave you a name. So talk a little bit about, clearly the curiosity is obviously there. Having got to know you in the last month or so. But how did that come about? And again, same question to you. What were some of the pivotal moments in your life up to this point?
Yeah, so curiosity, I feel like, is just ingrained in who I am. I was that kid who would always ask, why? But wait, tell me more. Why? Like, how does that work? And so growing up, we really embraced a lot around science in our household. And I would do things like, if you guys remember Furbies, and how they kind of had like the creepy eyes and, maybe like someone would like be like, oh, I want that as a toy and I want to like play with it and have it. I was like, I want that as a toy because I want to take it apart and figure out how it works. So that was me growing up. Like, I was like, ooh, what can I do with these things? How do they work? How do they function? And how is all of this fitting together? And I just feel like that curiosity has just carried me forward in so many different things. Always learning, always trying to figure out like, well, what is this next step? How does this connect to this other piece? How can I keep driving my learning forward? And that really does connect into pivot points in life. So when I first went into undergrad, I thought, okay, I really like, helping. I enjoy this learning piece. I enjoy the sciences. I think I might want to go into pre-veterinary medicine. That could be a really interesting thing. I'm not a veterinarian today, though. And so I studied vet med for a little bit. I specialized in the sciences. And then I figured out, I don't want to only do sciences. I do really like doing other aspects. And so I decided to pivot and go into teaching because I enjoyed that helping aspect, but I didn't want to be only on the sciences side. But always still drawn to the sciences. And so as I've been teaching for the past long bit of a while, what I realized is that I still wanted to continue doing those things in the sciences. And now I've started to pivot into, well, I have pivoted. I've done my pivot into cybersecurity. And so I've switched gears again, and I've really just kind of loved like all the different things that I've been learning and doing within this new field. For me. So it's just this constant journey of reinventing oneself, always learning, always trying to figure out, what is that next thing? What is that next piece that I'm going to add to and continue with doing?
Okay, so sticking with you, Meghan, for a bit, again, going back to the Teflon analogy, right, which is specifically to what you just said, which is keeping on trying new things. One of the challenges, and I ask this of all my guests, is you get good at something. Quote unquote, you're a guru and people look up to you and so forth, and you have a feeling of self-worth. And then you start something new. And at that point, I mean, most people stop when you started something new, right? So how do you deal with the dichotomy, if you will, of being really good at something and essentially being a beginner at something else and being able to kind of straddle that?
That's really hard. So when you become an expert in something and then you switch to being the complete new person, the noob, if you want to use that term, or just the novice learner, right? You are going to hit more failures. But I think one of the biggest things I'm always trying to remind myself is that I'm always constantly hitting failures and going past those. And so it's okay to fail. Like I do some programming and you always get errors when you program, but it's feedback, right? Yeah. And so it's having that dialogue with self and telling yourself it's okay. You are going to have these times where you do struggle and it is hard. But you have to reassure yourself that is okay, and then really, really celebrate the wins. Like when you get something and it clicks, and you're like, oh, I just successfully deployed all these instances on my cloud, and it all worked, and I have this whole setup, and like now my VPC completely works. Oh man, you got to celebrate that. Like you have yourself a party, you dance, like whatever is your thing to celebrate, but you celebrate that. So that's what I think is really big. So that's what I recommend. And
Okay, so I need to add this before I ask the same question of you, Jen, is talking about programming errors. And this will probably predate both of you, I guarantee it. Punched cards. I used to actually submit punch cards to IBM 370 and we wait for a couple of minutes, or I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and you get a huge printout saying, hey, this is crap, what you just submitted, right? And we go back and get some more punch cards. Anyway, that's my programming day. So Jennifer, same question to you, right? Which is...
So my mom actually used those punch cards when she was programming. So she actually kept one. So she has she was given permission. So she still has an old punch card.
Yeah, I should have kept that relic. I don't know. It's like you're so past that point of, hey, just let the freaking program work. I don't know what it was, probably COBOL or something before that. So Jennifer, same thing, right? You've obviously, you've experimented, like you just talked about, right? In many, many different things. So how do you balance something that you're good at and then trying to be a newbie, or being a newbie at something else?
Yeah, I think I asked a lot of questions, and I would call them clarifying questions, right? And most of the time, I wasn't the only one with the question, right? But a lot of times I was the only one that had I don't know if it's courage or stupidity to ask the question in a room of people, right? Because you're revealing your ignorance. But, I'm never afraid to ask a question. I find it helps folks around you understand as well, and constantly reading, researching, meeting people, asking people their opinions, just having a short memory, right? There were times when I started and I was working as director of technology, and it was difficult, right? And so, like you say, celebrate the wins, Megan. I don't think I do that enough, because it's on to the next one. Like the list is long, and it just, okay, that's great, we got that done. But I really think it's important to, like you said, sit back and think, look at what we've accomplished here. And I'm not always certain that I do that. I should do that more. But it's just grinding it out, sticking with it. Incremental progress is the way I've looked at it, and surrounding yourself with folks that will challenge you, will encourage you. And I tend not to dwell on the negative, right? Just every day the next day is going to be better, right? So it's only going to be better. There's only better things to come.
So one of the things, again, Jen, I'll stick with you for now, which is you were mentioning something, again, this is something that is, again, something that Teflon brings to life, which is the ability to cool down, right? And again, when you're doing many things, and this is something that every type A personality, and like you were saying, you tried different things, there's no slowing down. But sometimes you have to let go of something, right? Whether sometimes permanently, sometimes you got to take a break. So have you found that magic formula which gives Jennifer the indication, hey, this is not working as anticipated for things outside your control maybe, and therefore you need to actually dial back? Has that, and if so, what has worked for you?
Well, I would say that I do some meditation, I do some tapping, and spending time with the family and having tech-free days. But I honestly find when I get frustrated with work, right, I just have to step away. And because something about me is sometimes it takes me longer to process concepts, right? And no matter if I want to learn it that day at that specific time, no matter what I do, it's not going to work. So I just need longer to process some things. And I find that given that time, I'll be walking in, or I'll be taking a shower, and then I'll have this idea, and it's without fail, right? If you give your body time to recharge, just like we restart computers, right? Sometimes I just say, just got to restart, just go to bed, just give it a rest. And sometimes you just can't push through things as much as you want it to get it done. You have to take a step back, reevaluate, give it time, come back to it. And it's always with a different set of eyes and a different perspective. So that takes different forms.
Yeah. So Megan, same question for you. I mean, I can't ever think of you ever taking a break for everything, right? It's like, so, and again, but at the same time, just like what Jen was saying, it's so important to have those periods of calm and not doing anything. So again, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I do sleep and I do take breaks. So I do morning journaling. So I have like a really strong morning routine of setting goals for the day and then looking through what is my schedule for the day, prioritizing, and then doing a little bit of morning meditation and journaling. And then I also end the day with meditation and journaling. And I feel like bookending the day in that way really, really just helps me be centered. I also go for walks, and when the weather today was really warm where I am, but when the weather's a little bit more, a little less cool, I go for runs too. So kind of like just getting out there and getting exercise, I find that really helpful. I garden too, so I love to plan and just kind of be out there. So all those things kind of just help me unwind. And I think there's also just paying attention to what interests you, where do you want to spend your energy, and if for some reason there's something that you're working on that you're just kind of like, oh, I'm not feeling this, asking that question about why, and there could be a bunch of reasons about the why, but trying to dig deeper into that, it could be something that you need to let go of. There could be a reason that you shouldn't work on that project anymore. And then you can say no to things too. So I think it's kind of thinking about a couple of those different things.
Yeah, and again, so the same question. I mean, so the same statement that you made about saying no to things. I mean, lots of times, especially when we're in this universe of, hey, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Therefore, I need to reinvent myself. And both of you are talking about the constant learning. Again, what barometer? What do you use to actually say what to say no to? Meghan, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it has to do with, does the thing fit into my schedule? Is it something that I think will align with my values? Does it bring me joy to be involved with it? Do I think it will help others? So a lot of it, like I ask questions like that. So like sometimes it's literally a timing thing. I only have a certain amount of time, and then sometimes it's a values thing. Like, do I think it's going to lead me down some interesting rabbit hole with curiosity? And so that's probably going to be a yes. Or do I think that it's going to help further people's knowledge about security or where they want to go in their lives? And I'm really into mentoring and helping other people continue their learning. So that's probably going to be a yes too. Or does it seem like it's kind of like something static that may not be going other places? Then that could end up being a no. So it really just depends on what the purpose of that thing is. But I do look at things with like kind of scrutiny and try to discern and ask some questions.
Jennifer, same question to you. I mean, how do you say no and how do you judge what to say no to?
Right. Well, try to prioritize at work. Is it impacting teaching and learning, right? Those are the priorities. Is it impacting the business unit? Is it a security issue? There are days when, you should be tackling this project that's probably the most important, but sometimes you just don't necessarily feel like it. So you might do something else, like, pay a couple invoices or inventory your printers. If there's like a project that involves dealing with people and you're just sort of not your best self that day, you might want to, stage that or push that meeting out. And I try to do the same for my team, right? To prevent them from just being assigned a bunch of different tasks, right? So protecting their time, and that's helpful, right, for team dynamics.
So something that Meghan, you touched upon, right, and both of you I know are super active when it comes to giving back, right? And talk a little bit about how that journey has evolved and how that helps you with being more Teflon-like.
Was that for me starting?
Yeah, starting with you.
So giving back is something that is just so important to me, and really trying to reach others and help others, mainly from a mentorship capacity is what I do a lot of. So helping people figure out what their goals are, what they want to work on next. I've been an educator for a long time, and so I really view that a lot of what I did as an educator was helping guide that next generation. And I can continue doing things like that with adults, because we all have things that we're working on, and we can ask those questions and think about setting goals and what we want to do. And that relates to any field. I tend to work with cybersecurity specialty, but I really do like to help people figure out exactly what they want to do with that. I think that's kind of the gist of what you're asking with that one. But if I didn't answer part of it, definitely let me know.
No, we'll come back to that. So Jennifer, same thing to you. I mean, I know you are extremely active in the giving back piece, right? What are some of the learnings for you in that journey?
Right. So I mentor with Hack Diversity and VSIS, and I find that often the advice that I'm giving to my mentees, right, I'm often not following it myself, right?
Join the party.
Yeah, and it's great. Like when you sit down and you help them talk about an interview skills, and it's like, wow, who would ask this question in an interview? Like, this is a tough one, and it's for, when we're working from a book, right? And then asking them how it went and how they responded. So, the next time I'm interviewing someone, I have a lot more empathy, right? And also, I just lost my train of thought. I've remembered. So I teach now at Assumption University, and I get paid for that, right? But I love it so much. It's wonderful. The students are young and enthusiastic, and it's helping me when I have to explain concepts to them. I have to add the context for them, and it's helping me. Anytime you have to teach something, right? You develop and deepen your understanding. So that's been really rewarding. And I just wrapped up my first semester, and I had a student email me, and it was awesome. He said, even though you seemed very overwhelmed at the beginning, I got a lot out of your class. And he said some nice things, and I was laughing because I just said the honesty, and I'm sure I was overwhelmed, but, so yeah, that's been great.
So one question to both of you, and then we'll go to the final question, right? Is you both deal with the up and coming generation, right? Whether it's, I don't know, Gen Z or whatever comes after that, right?
Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to look at that generation and saying, I mean, are they more Teflon-like or less Teflon-like? What is your assessment, and how is that generation really coping up with the time? So let's start with you, Meghan.
I think there's so much resiliency in this generation, which tremendously ties into Teflon. So I see a lot of it where they're really willing to think critically and like respond to the circumstances. Like you can look at so many different things that youth did during COVID, all sorts of movements that youth leadership started. So I see a lot of it. And so then like that's more like teens, tweens, but like let's look at like early 20-year-olds, and you just see like some people who are really just out there like giving everything their all, and just participating so much and just joining, information security communities. So I really see a lot of activity of people really doing that, heating up fast and then just getting participating. So I see a lot of it.
Jennifer, what's your observation mean?
I think, I'm not sure how it relates to Teflon, but I just feel that they're a lot more evolved, right, than my generation, than yours, Tash. Right? I look at my boys and the topics that they've already studied, and they have a little bit of mastery of, they're decades ahead of where I was, and the only thing I worry about is social media and the pressures that they're facing, and privacy, right? I think if I had my way, we would, when babies were born, we'd educate parents about privacy before they left the hospital, and we'd have that in the curriculum in grade school.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like as soon as someone gets a device, they should be also learning about security and privacy. Like those two things should go hand in hand from an education standpoint. Like that is so important, and it's not taught that way. It's like, oh, just give them a device.
Yeah.
Oh, they can click on it. There's no there's no thought to the other side of it. I mean, a lot of times the parents don't even know too. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a completely hot button topic, right? Especially now with iOS 14.5. At least the awareness is being raised. I mean that's actually the good part, right? You know, whether people actually act upon it is a different thing. So final question to both of you, right? If somebody is not been living a Teflon life, aka he or she has been quote unquote stuck in the rut, hasn't been experimenting, feels too overwhelmed to try something new, what advice would you have for them? Let's start with you, Jennifer.
Well, it's never too late, right? You always reinvent yourself. You know, it's your life. You've got one life. You know, it's not nothing's guaranteed. So, you know, I think it's a quote. Was it Mark Twain? I'm not even sure. But the day you're born, and then you discover why you were born. Right? What is your purpose? What is your passion? You know, keep thinking. What makes you happy? Just keep searching. Right? You love a learning, constant learner, meeting new people. Right? Expanding your networks and your opinions. You know, talking with people with different interests. I think that's what I would say. Never too late.
Meghan, take us home.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my childhood nickname of Curious George. And I encourage people to become curious, right? So if you can go back and become curious about something, you will gain that passion about it because you'll want to understand it. You'll want to know why. And so that's really going to help you live that Teflon life, is getting curious about whatever it is. And that's going to help you progress into that more of a growth mindset with things.
Wow, great conversation. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack for folks who are watching live or viewing it later. So again, thank you for your time. I know it's late for both of you, so appreciate staying up late. Meghan and Jen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ashwin.
Thanks, Meghan.